Every pregnancy needs utmost care and attention. But certain pregnancies need a little extra attention. An Rh negative mother carrying an Rh positive baby is at increased risk of complications. BSV is at the forefront to ensure safe delivery in every Rh negative pregnancy.
Hello and welcome to the Outside View here with me, Rupa Ramani, and this is presented by Women's Creek Zone and it's brought to you by BSV, Puma, Food and Wellness, AMRI Hospitals, and of course MPL Sports Foundation. And we are previewing the big one, England versus New Zealand. With us joining in on that is Creek Zone's Mohit Shah and of course two-time World Cup winner, Julia Price. Thank you so much for joining in. Straight off, we know this contest, it's just as big as the Ashes or anything else. It's a huge one. And what's most important about this, and before I come to you, Julia, with your initial thoughts on this, is very particularly the points table. I'd like to take a look at that to see exactly why this is a very important encounter. Because if you look at the points table and you know exactly where these two teams are placed, you know why this is a very important clash, because it's a chance to get into that top four for both of them. And if England wins, they straight away get through on, of course, their run rate, and they sort of get close to India there. New Zealand jump up to go at a higher position. So that is why this clash is so important here. And Julia, your thoughts here, because both these teams are coming into this contest with a very different sort of a last game, right? New Zealand in particular will be worried ahead of this one.
Absolutely. I mean, they know it's a do or die for them. They've got to make sure that they win this firstly, and that'll get them in the four. But they've also got to make sure that they win it pretty convincingly, because there are people on their tails. There's a few extra games still left in the tournament, when a net run rate will absolutely determine who's going to be that fourth place and potentially third place team as well. So it'll be an absolute cracker tomorrow.
Mohit, England obviously coming after on the back of a very convincing win against a top team like India. They'll definitely have the momentum in the favor. And we know what England can do even when they're coming at the back of a loss. So that would be a huge, huge competitor that New Zealand is going to be straight away up against in this one.
Yeah, New Zealand will have a challenge on their hands, because even in the last World Cup cycle, England have had the upper hand over them. They've faced, I think, 12 times with England winning 9. So England will derive a lot of confidence from that record. And also their series last year, where England was significantly better than New Zealand. They comprehensively won that series, though it was played in England. So home conditions might neutralize that a little bit. But yeah, England will be full of confidence after beating India and restricting them to such a low score in the last match.
You're speaking about how they are when they face each other, and just a head-to-head, and we know how head-to-heads go. There is a bit of history between these two sides as well. They've played each other so many times, and obviously it's been close encounters. England sort of having that little edge in terms of 40 to 36 wins. But we know it's World Cup is something different. When it comes down to a World Cup tournament, none of this matters. Let's talk about New Zealand first, Julia. Really not in a great frame of mind. They probably started the tournament with a lot of, momentum, and that with the win against India, the crowds against, behind them. But somewhere you reckon that slide has happened, especially with their batting sort of giving way and not forming that crux of that team.
Yeah, well, obviously the Susie Bates issue at the moment. I mean, she's opening the batting with Sophie Devine. She's I suppose coming back into the team with regards to performance-wise, and she's only had the one score, and that was just against Bangladesh. So she absolutely needs to be, having a look at her own game, and she'll be very disappointed. And England, she hasn't got a very good record either against England, so it's not getting much better for Susie at the moment. But at the same time, Susie's an unbelievably experienced person and a fantastic competitor, and has a load of runs under her belt. So it might be exactly what she needs. She just needs that challenge and that incentive to know that this is pretty much the last roll of the dice for New Zealand. If she doesn't, get some runs for a team and really get them off to a much better start with her opening partner in Sophie Devine, who's been pretty good so far, it just puts New Zealand on the back foot and makes it pretty tough for them to try and get too many or a competitive total.
Speaking of England, yes, they do have some good sort of performances and people sort of pulling together. But Mohit, if you do look at someone like Tammy Beaumont, who there's so much that was riding on her when she came into this World Cup, probably hasn't met those expectations as much as she would have liked.
Yeah, I think she's probably been one of their better batters, though. Like, I agree, she's probably not met the expectations, but that's because she herself has set the benchmark so high. But she's actually been that one player in the England top three who's performed in almost every single match. Her strike rate has slightly been on the lower side, but that's also because England have lost a couple of wickets early in every match.
Yes.
What Tammy would be disappointed about is the fact that she's not gone on to convert those 40s and 50s into
Yes.
100. So, which is why England have not gotten the kind of totals that they are accustomed to getting. But I think Tammy Beaumont has a great record in New Zealand and more so against New Zealand. So we can like back her to get a big one tomorrow, especially at Eden Park, which is a ground which doesn't have a lot of assistance for the bowlers and where England have enjoyed success in the past. So yeah, I think Tammy Beaumont's due a big one tomorrow.
Yeah, we could probably see some of that coming from her. That would be good. But just quickly to wrap this up, when it comes to the New Zealand bad bowling department, definitely a few sparks there for sure, Julia. I think they sort of they've carried them through this tournament so far, and a lot to be riding on. Of course, the Kurz, as we know, and Dahuku.
Yeah, and I think they've played around a little bit with their order as well, which has been good for them. I think it's just sort of allowing them to use Leah Tahuhu slightly better. She was quite expensive in the with the new ball, and it was going quickly. And I think at Eden Park we saw how I think it's a 300 plus ground easily. There's lots of pockets and space everywhere, and particularly straight down the ground. So I think it's been good the way they've been able to toy around a little bit with their bowling lineup. I think Sophie Devine's been pretty inventive with how she's been using her bowlers as well. And she'll need that absolutely tomorrow to try and keep England at bay. Because again, as we said, it's an absolute essential that one of these teams, whoever wins this game, will go into the top four. So it's such an essential game.
Yes. So prediction time then, Mohit. Are we going against the home favorites?
I personally would want to go with New Zealand because other than the match against Australia, all the other matches have been very close. And I think they have the ingredients to get it past England. So my pick would be New Zealand.
Julia, who are you backing for this one?
I love your work, Mohit. I'm going for New Zealand as well, but again, purely because I picked New Zealand to be in my four. But at the same time, I sort of think New Zealand, they know this ground. Not that they've played that many ODIs there recently at Eden Park. In fact, not since 2000. But at the same time, it's they're at home. They can understand the conditions. I just think they'll have that upper edge, and because both teams have been underperforming a little, so I think out of the two underperformers, I think New Zealand may just have the slight edge.
I don't know why I have this feeling about England, because just looking at the way they came out against India, they at that sort of an intensity, they are quite a handful to match as well. But it'll be an exciting encounter for us for sure when we're sitting, and make sure you do wake up early if you're in India to catch that match early in the morning tomorrow. But we sort of wrapping this up here, and do stay on for the outside view for more.